Welcome to the What's Good Dough podcast and get ready to level up. But before we continue with the show, I want to introduce you to my two show sponsors, Uni Pizza Ovens and Cotta Olive Oil. Let's start with Uni. They are the #1 pizza oven company in the world with the best community there is. Because of their ovens, I have made some of the most amazing pizzas. From round pies to squares, I'm able to get to temperatures of up to 900 degrees, allowing me to cook the pizzas of my dreams. If you're looking to grow your pizza business, buying an Uni makes sense. My past guest Ryan of Sanctuary Pizza has a mobile catering company powered by Uni. These powerful ovens are efficient, lightweight, and can be used almost anywhere. Whether you take pizza seriously like me or want to run a pizza operation like Ryan, Uni is the choice for you. Use the link in the show notes and join the Uni community. My second show sponsor is Cotta Olive Oil. At first, I didn't believe that olive oil mattered. It wasn't until I got educated and learned about the difference between commodity oil and Cotta's fresh squeezed olive oil that I ditched the supermarket stuff. Today, I only use Cotta olive oil when it comes to making my dough and even doing a post-bake drizzle. I have even made some amazing pesto with it. Oh my goodness. Cotta's high quality olive oil does really elevate anything it touches. My buddy Chris, who runs a slice of New Jersey, just switched over to Cotta. Not only is he getting quality, but he ended up saving money by switching over too. If you're still unsure of the difference, pizza operators can sign up for a free olive oil tasting. Use the link in the show notes to learn more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my show sponsors and supporting this show.
Because they understand you and they understand what you're going through. It's so important to build community that you can rely on, and they'll catch you and they'll say, hey, it's okay.
That was Ines of Lupa Cotta, and it's your boy, Idriff, and you're listening to the What's Good Dough podcast. Whether it's pizza, business, or life, my guest and I are always talking about ways we can level up. Today, you are going to hear an amazing and enlightening story. I just want to say Ines challenged the way I think about business, think about the way I schedule my time and who I hang out with, really. Ines, her secret weapon is community. And because she's built up her community, because she's paid her dues, she's able to go to catering gigs and charge $100 per head. The way she just views her business and approach to pizza is, again, enlightening. And I think you're going to like it. I think you're going to like her way of thinking. But also, let me first say that there is an auto-generated transcript. If you want to follow along visually, if you want to listen to the episode and you don't want to listen to the entire thing, you can hit search on there. Link to that will be in the website. All right? Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And remember to always ask, what's good, dough? Hello, everyone. I have an amazing guest today. You may have seen her on Instagram doing some crazy salad detox videos, some collaborations, some cooking for famous people. Oh my goodness, I'm excited to dive in. Ines is with me from Lupa Cotta. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Idriff. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited that we finally get to do this. So I'm doing very well.
Cool. There is one way that I like to start the show, and there's no right or wrong answer. What's good dough?
What's good dough? I would say good dough is something that, good dough can be anything. I think pizza is so controversial these days, or not controversial, but everyone seems to have their opinion on what is a good pizza, and pizza should be this way and pizza should be that way. And I think good dough is something that sparks that passion in someone, whomever it may be. So good dough is, someone says, oh my goodness, this is the best pizza dough I've ever had. And that may be completely different from another person who has your pizza dough and it says, oh, well, I have this other memory and this is what I think is really good dough. So I think pizza is something that ignites a new experience or nostalgia, that ignites passion. And I think that's kind of the good start for no matter what it is, whether you're a dough scientist, or you make dough like a nona, or you make dough like a home cook, or you make, the shitty no knead dough, pardon my language. But I think there's no right or wrong reason, of like what is good dough, in my opinion.
Yes. Beautiful answer, and a funny one too, and also deep all at the same time. You sparked my curiosity though. Why do you say no knead doughs are shitty?
No knead doughs are not shitty, I would say. And I apologize for taking that. I completely take that back. I guess I would say, because that totally, is kind of hypocritical in what I was just saying. No knead dough is not shitty at all. It's just a different technique. But let's go back to year 2012, in Valparaiso, Chile. I was studying abroad in college and, living in Valparaiso, and my, for some rhyme or reason in Chile at that time period, there was like no good pizza. You had, and Chileans are, I'm part Chilean, by the way, but Chileans are big, creatures of snacking. And so, they love sandwiches and they love empanadas and, all of these different foods, but for some reason, pizza, they just didn't have down. And, we would try to eat at all of these fancy places, within your college budget, of course, and it was just still terrible pizza. So, I remember attempting to make pizza for my host family, and I couldn't find yeast. So I think at the time I used, I want to say baking soda, which is kind of crazy to think about. And this was my first experience making pizza dough on my own without my family, or my parents that used to make pizza. And I just used baking soda, and it was like a sheet pan pizza, and it kind of worked for some reason. And it was probably one of those, like, Jim Leahy no knead recipe. And it worked, and my host family was just blown away, and they were like, wow, this is the best pizza I've ever had. So I think that kind of sparked my interest. I said, oh, maybe it would be really cool to, like, open up like a pizza shack here one day and create that like cool culture of, American Chilean. But anyways, I have, at least for now, since moved on from that dream, but it did, obviously it did spark eventually from 2012 to stopping, and then in 2019 to then jumping into pizza eventually. So maybe one day I will open a pizza shack in Chile, But anyways, so I think who knows? So I think going back to that experience of like that pizza, which traditionally, it doesn't have yeast, it doesn't have sourdough, it doesn't have those natural cultures, but it did have baking soda or, God, I really would love to taste that pizza today. But it worked. And it ignited that passion and love for pizza. And I will say that was 2012 to 2019. So 7 years later, my host sister came to visit Los Angeles and got to try my pizza. So it was nice. It was a nice, like, full circle.
Full circle. Yeah, that's awesome. What happened in 2019 where you were just like, maybe I should reignite this fire?
So I guess it started, I guess the fire I started thinking about, kind of change. I used to work in film and television. And, that was my passion for a long time, and, still is, I think, to a certain degree, but, I studied film and English lit in college, and then went on to do the film path, moved to New York, and then Los Angeles. And then in between, I was traveling a lot for work, working on the famous reality TV show Survivor, in, Nicaragua, Cambodia, Fiji for 6 months at a time. And in between then, I always feel kind of like I've always had this lone wolf spirit, this entrepreneur spirit, have you? But, and I always wanted to start a business. And in the film world, I kept being just drawn and attracted to food. So, I said, how can I, start a business in food? I, for some reason, I love it. And I think the reason was, it was like similar to film. There's a storytelling aspect about food. And, we would travel around to all of these different countries, from crew members from all over the world, whether it was, South Africa, the Philippines, Nicaragua, and they all had their own experiences and memories. And at the end of long, 17-hour days, 6 days a week, we'd all get together and have a glass of wine or a beer, and then also talk about food. And oftentimes it was pizza. Sometimes good pizza, sometimes really bad pizza. But I liked that even though we were from, again, all over the world and had our own different cultures, it was pizza that kind of brought us together, like the world's most loved food. And so, not having a professional background in cooking, I thought, what is something that everyone loves, where I'm not necessarily stepping on, a high-end chef's toes, what is something that I can maybe kind of cultivate my own career, but other chefs would welcome it, because I love different chefs and what they have to offer. And so I thought pizza would be the good medium, where you have fine dining chefs to children to everybody in between, that everyone loves pizza, and it really just excites them. And so I thought, I was still working at a production office in 2017, and I thought maybe a do-it-yourself pizza kit business would be my move. But I would take steps to get there. So I quit my job. I went to pizza school in Naples, the Associazione Vera Pizza Napoletana, for 3 weeks with Gennaro, if anybody knows him. Shout out, love you. You're probably not listening to this, but anyways, so did that for 3 weeks, which was an incredible experience. Ate so much pizza. I would encourage anyone that, maybe just wants the experience of being in school and being surrounded by these older Italian men who are, they're all smoking cigarettes and pounding espressos. And that's kind of the romantic notion of it. I would say that they do kind of say that that's the only way to make pizza, which I disagree with, but it's very charming nonetheless. And you do learn a lot, in between those cigarettes and espresso shots. So anyway, so we did that, breathed pizza, then went to go eat at pizzerias local in Naples, which is incredible. And then I came back, and I got a job at what I believed was the best pizza place in Los Angeles at the time, coming from having lived in New York beforehand, which was called Soto. It has now shuttered since, but it was open for 7 or 8 years, and they had, this beautiful yellow oven. They made amazing Italian food, very, very good. Steve Sampson was the name of the chef. Steve Sampson, his wife, Dina Sampson, co-owned the restaurant, and they made the beautiful leopard spotted crust. And so they gave me a job and put me straight on the pizza line. And I was the only one on the pizza line, and coming from a non-line cook experience, I got my, trying not to curse, because sometimes I have a habit, I got my butt handed to me.
You got your ass handed to you. It's cool.
I got my ass handed to me. And I mean, I don't, I think I went to, I think people, I was, reading the books, how do I do this business? And people are always say, if you want to open a pizzeria, if you want to start a pizza business, no matter what, you have to work in a restaurant for 3 months. And, take it or leave it. I think that is true or not true nowadays, but I would encourage it to people if they want to get that experience, of especially maybe opening a pizzeria, is to work in a pizzeria or a restaurant just to like really know. And, it was incredibly stressful. I learned so much. And, everyone, the restaurant environment was very, very intense, but I think I was under a chef who was actually really, really lovely. The sous chefs were a little bit harder on me, but also I always hear them, whenever I'm doing something wrong nowadays, I'm like, oh. And I think that's a good lesson. But anyways, so I had in my mind, I was going to do, you're supposed to do this for 3 months. So that's what I did. I said, I did it for 3 months, not a minute more, not a minute less. And I mean, my hat's off to line cooks. It is so incredibly stressful. I don't think I've ever been that stressed before. And then I did that. My friend who was living in Copenhagen, she was a chef who had traveled all around the world, staging or apprenticing at different restaurants. And she had just, come back recently from a year-long apprenticeship in Copenhagen at a restaurant called Relay. And Relay, they have, or the Relay group, Relay also has now shuttered since the pandemic, but it was a Michelin star restaurant that they also had a pizza restaurant, which some of you guys may have heard of, called Based, where they make all their charcuterie in-house. They have their own farm called the organic farm, called the Farm of Ideas. And they make their own ricotta and mozzarella. And it's just an incredible institution. Along with, they had a few other restaurants, including a bakery and a vegetable focused tartare bar, which was incredible. So anyways, my friend, I think she was living in Barcelona at the time, and she said, hey, this restaurant group, they're going to do a festival at a castle in Denmark, in the middle of nowhere. And, LCD sound system will be playing there. Do you want to come? They're looking for volunteers. You can work with the restaurant group, and then maybe you can get a stage or apprenticeship with the pizza restaurant afterwards. And so I said, yeah, cool. So they accepted me. My friend, the day that I got there, she unfortunately had an emergency where she couldn't make it. So it was just me camping by myself at a castle in Denmark in the middle of nowhere, but super fun, very beautiful, great experience. It was such a fun, also something that I would recommend now that our world is opening up. I think doing a concert that way through food, whether you're working with a different food vendor, is such a great way to experience both maybe a restaurant, but like a restaurant group from behind the scenes, but B, doing a festival. So, you have a place to escape. People that are working are usually very happy to be there and relax. So they'll be more open instead of stressed out and, have a beer or not. But, it was so great. So I got to meet all of these chefs who were usually very, stressed, intense people in their relaxed environment. And it was very fun and special. And the people that were there, even though they were living in Copenhagen, were from, all around the world as well. So, this kind of also felt like home and like my, survivor family, where you had all of these people, but they were all together, and were so incredibly passionate about food and making things and politics and food politics. And so I was there for about a month. I got to work on the farm for a little bit. I got to work at Based. And it was a very special experience.
I am a huge advocate for people to get out there and travel. I love to travel. And I think it just opens up your mind. But also when it comes to food, you're able to draw on, inspiration from things that you've eaten outside of your state, country, continent.
Absolutely. And like a dish or a memory, whether it was pizza or not pizza, like you have something that was so, that absolutely, we've said it'll ignite, it's something beautiful in your own reiteration of it. I think it was the chef who told me, I was kind of, sometimes I feel like in our quest for business or our quest for life, we oftentimes, even though we know deep down that we could do something, we kind of need to have somebody else give us permission to do it. So I remember talking to, one of the chefs there who had accomplished all of these things at such a young age. And I said, I have this idea and I want to do it. Like, what do you think about people starting their own things? And he said, you can study to become the best, like bread baker, or the best whatever for, years and years and years until you're an old man or an old woman. But it's going to be the business minded person or the person that handles it creatively that they will get more business than the amazing, talented, incredible bread baker. And so, that kind of, I took that and I was like, all right, that's it. Like, of course I want to, I really, really want to keep learning. And I have this envy for people that are able to stage or work in restaurants for like a long period of time. But coming from the film experience, I was like, I already did my getting into a new job. I'm just going to go for it and see what happens and get my butt handed to me. So I was like, all right, time to start a business. And let's just see what happens. So I think it was beginning of 2019, I started doing pop-ups. And I asked, like, I think in LA, like pizza pop-ups were not popular around then. And it's amazing to see like what has happened today. So I asked like this dive bar that I loved going to because I knew that they had a back patio. And so I was trying to find all these loopholes, at first I'm going to pause myself there. So I was getting advice about a commercial kitchen because I said, I want to do this right. I'm going to, invest in all these things. And I was getting advice about things like commercial kitchen, insurance, everything. And people at the commercial kitchen, they showed me around and they said, look, you can invest your money in commercial kitchen, but like you're most likely going to fail if you do that. So at the beginning, because you're still getting your name out there. So they said, work out of home or whatever you can for as long as you can, work under the radar for as long as you can while like slowly getting your name out there. And I would give that advice to anyone, again, if you can, and you have these creative ways, just because it's true. It takes a really, really long time to get started, and to start getting busy. And I'm very thankful for that advice because, I think in also in California, I've told other people, I have an LLC now, which is in California, it's very expensive, as I'm sure you know, but like it's the starting a business, $800 a year, and you have all of these, expensive operating costs just to have your business. And so I think, what I did is I think I started my LLC in the fall before I started my pop-ups, but I didn't actually use it till 4 months later. So really I just charged my small business $800 for no rhyme reason. So what I would recommend to people is, especially if you're not getting started, if you're getting started at the end of the year, just wait a little bit, just kind of test out stuff with friends, take the opportunities with, you may not make that much money, but take those opportunities because then you'll learn. And then in the new year, you can think about actually, with your experience of doing it a few times, if you're serious, you can have an LLC. But I would say that was another thing that I learned. So anyway, so I held off on the commercial kitchen. I said, okay, I'm not going to do farmers markets where you need, all of these different, obviously you need to work out a commercial kitchen, health department, I'm going to kind of work out of a grungy dive bar in the patio that's not on the street, because street permitting is also very challenging, and people will just shut you down if they want to. In most cases, I would say. So people often ask me, they're like, okay, like, what do I need for my permits? I'm like, just forget about that for now. Just like slowly start. That's the hardest step, like don't do the paperwork, just like slowly start guerrilla style. And that's the hardest step. And eventually you can start to do things right.
If I can just make a comment on that real quickly, like I agree and I disagree, because
yes.
At the end of the day, you do have to get started somehow.
Of course.
But you also better protect your ass. Is my disclaimer for that, right? Like there are ways where you can just get the experience that you need. You clearly didn't want to. I think you were saying like you paid your dues in the TV film world, and so paying your dues didn't like seem appealing to you in a restaurant, like working for a restaurant for a very, very long time. So I think what you did say though was like, you don't have to make a lot of money at first when you get started. And some of that is just trading your time for experience, but also doing it on your own time and in your own way.
Yeah. And I don't mean to say I paid, like, because I paid my dues in the film world, I didn't want to pay my dues in the, I guess like came off the wrong way, but I think I was just so excited to, I guess, having gotten started in the film world about before I really stepped into that part of the career. I was so excited to just start my own business and cultivate my own business that I do think it's really important to not skip those steps if you're able to. In studying how a restaurant works, in studying your dough form. And as you said, I think, it is really hard to get started in whatever way you can is the most important part, in whatever way,
Yeah. And sorry, I didn't mean to say you're not paying your dues, because you absolutely do pay your dues, but in a different setting. Like you went and started a restaurant on your own. Like that is you in the trenches learning and figuring shit out. Like totally, you just wanted you wanted to pay your dues on your own kind of way.
Yeah.
On your own terms. Yeah. There you go.
Totally. But it's important to pay your dues to everyone out there. But
exactly. I know. Yeah, for sure. That is, let's make that extremely clear.
Yes. And I do. And I think you are absolutely right. Idris is it's important to cover your ass. And I think I would recommend everyone to take a Serve Safe course. I did that. It's just recommended because then you can work in other kitchens where they might ask, hey, like, do you have your Serve Safe? And you're like, yeah, of course I do. And then also insurance. I've heard horror stories, and knock on wood, insurance is also a really good thing to have. I've had some friends who've worked in clients' homes with, really nice marble countertops that are, you can't even imagine how much they cost. And they put a hot stone on the marble countertop and it cracks. And so they have to pay now $10,000 plus out of pocket to cover this one crack in this expensive house. And they didn't have insurance. So I would say at the very least, insurance, and just get your Serve Safe manager card. You'd be surprised. It's easy to do and it's not that expensive.
I lost a $3,000 deposit because I cracked my marble at my old apartment when I was cooking something through sous vide overnight, and I just kept the hot pan on the marble, and then pop. I woke up the next morning. I was like, "Holy shit, we're not getting our deposit back." So, just a quick little lesson for those listening.
Yeah, those countertops. Be careful. Be careful with those countertops. Yeah, and insurance is it'll help cover you. And that's usually, I think, for getting started on pop-ups is usually like especially if you're working in collaboration with another business that has an existing restaurant. Those are the two main things that people ask of you is like, do you have insurance? and or we're going to not do have insurance. We're going to need your insurance and your Serve Safe Manager card. So those are helpful. But yeah, so that being said, worked at a dive bar, back patio. Everyone's smoking cigarettes outside around your my little pizza station, which is funny. I had to like kind of tell people sometimes, like, I'm sorry, like, do you mind just standing over there and not smoking a cigarette right here where I'm like cutting the pizza? And it was pretty funny, but great time. So I did that. Kind of an interesting place to start a pop-up. I think you kind of have to know your audience. I wouldn't say that was a good place for my audience as the most important thing was that I started, which was great. But, I was serving kind of expensive artisan pizza at a dive bar that served like very cheap PBRs, and that kind of audience, they're not going to want to spend money on expensive pizza. They want pizza, but they're not going to want to spend money on expensive pizza. So, I learned that the hard way, but and eventually, and then also while I was doing that, I also was popping up at different WeWorks, which if you guys, I'm sure people know, but if anybody who doesn't know, is a shared office space and with different entrepreneurs and businesses. And so I thought, that might be a really great place to like test my product and, also network with other businesses as I'm serving them pizza. And so I would go and set up my Breville pizza oven indoors. And I mostly did all of this stuff by myself, which was, I would also recommend. Just try to have some faith and investing in other people. You're not going to make any money, but, I was taking orders. I was making the pizza. I was socializing. I was, doing everything. And it's very exhausting to do that on your own. And, I would say, I don't know if I would say maybe that's more of a female tendency, I think, to maybe not, I could be wrong, but and it's a generalization, of course, but I think females have a tougher time just trying to get help and they think they can do everything themselves. But it's, I think, really important to work with a team. Sometimes people are willing to volunteer too. I had a dear friend just when I was at the Mandrake bar, the dive bar, to help, take orders just because she wanted to socialize and be out there. So, some people are willing to help in whatever way. So, so did that for almost a full year, both the WeWork pop-ups, the dive bar pop-up, barely made any money. And then eventually shifted towards working at, foodie wine bars. And, two places in Los Angeles. There was Kensho with David Nguyen, which was like kind of a Japanese cafe in the Hollywood Hills. David Nguyen has become a dear friend since. I lived in Japan for 5 years, so we kind of became good friends and flocked to each other with that. He lived internationally for a long time too, with that international background. But so we did a few pop-ups there, and then also at Melody Wine Bar in East LA, which is an incredible place. I would also recommend people to do pop-ups there. It's really cool, some of these places that have the like pop-up culture. And that was, people were kind of buying their fancy natural wine mixed with, they wanted like a cool experience. So they're more willing to invest in your creative, maybe a little bit more pricier pizzas. And so that was kind of a more of the audience that I eventually found. And
solid advice.
Yeah. And so to I guess to reiterate, we were saying like find your audience. Like it's not going to be everywhere, but don't be offended when you don't have the right audience. You just have to try to seek it out. Where are you? Do you want to serve really cheap pizza at dive bars and just be constantly making tons of pizza? I'm like doing this like it's money, but it's actually pizza. But or do you want to be, kind of like doing serving it up, or do you want to kind of be doing like more creative pizzas that are a little bit slower, but they're for your wine friendly audience.
I totally get that. And it's important to think of that, maybe not before you get started, but as you're working through things, right? I mean, there is a time and place for everyone. If you think of, you're from LA, Dirty Dogs, right? They're not going to be, or they might be at a natural wine spot, but they're most likely going to be outside of the club for people who are drunk and want a quick snack that'll sober them up.
But yes.
Delicious.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with Dirty Dogs, but... And for anyone who doesn't know, who I lived in LA for 5 years. And so, and they have them here in San Jose too. But Dirty Dogs are like bacon wrapped hot dogs. They're cooked on these like hot plates. They got onions and jalapenos and some mayonnaise and ketchup. And they're just like a bunch of like, people outside of clubs selling these things. And they're like, what, $5? And that's what people want because they're drunk and they've spent all their money on alcohol. They just need something quick to sober them up. Versus a pizza where you got to wait 10 minutes for your order. These Dirty Dogs are already pretty much ready to go, so they're quick. But I think the point that we're trying to make here is find your audience where they're hanging out and sell to them.
Yeah, and I think that's true of being said. This is kind of how I format my business now. I think my main source of making money is private events. But I only do a certain type of private event. So, I've had people, especially in the pop-up days, ask me like, listen, I can do these like kids' birthday parties where there's 500 people and they're going to eat so much pizza and like, you just make a killing. And, I think for some people, like people are, and by all means, like, yes, that would be that. If you are excited about that and the adrenaline of like just creating like 500 pizzas, it's insane, but let's go. And again, I think there are people like that. Then yes, this opportunity is for you.
Do you?
Yes, you do you. But for me, that's like, no. So I have created my cutoff for number of guests, and sometimes I'll make an exception, but for 50 people or less. And my reasoning behind it is like, I personally, my safe space is like, I like to control the quality of food and, kind of make more conversation with the guests. And I like to do parties where it's more food focused and where people are excited about pizza and people want to engage with the different chefs there and talk about ingredients and talk about their experiences with pizza or ingredients or traveling. So I've kind of created a niche for myself to do, 50 people or less. And if I go 50 people or above, I'll usually partner with LA is a very collaborative place. So I have a lot of different chef friends who specialize in different things, from whether it's like pork stroganoff or hamburger or smash burgers or whatever. I'll say, hey, like, yes, we can do this for you, but we also are going to, help. We're going to bring on a co-chef and they're going to make smash burgers. So it's going to be pizza and smash burgers to help with the flow of, the number of people. So if it's a 100-person party, you'll probably be making enough pizzas for 50 people, and the smash burgers will be making enough pizzas for that. So,
genius.
Yeah. So, and again, like I know plenty of pizza chefs who are badass and they're like 500 people. Let's make it 1,000.
You didn't necessarily say that. That's
funny. So I think that's something that you have to eventually learn. Like, what are you comfortable with? And be true to it,
Hey, Pizza Pal. I just want to say thank you for listening to the show so far, and thank you for making it all the way here. Before we get on to the end of the show, I want to remind you all to please leave a rating on the podcast. You could do it right now. Just go ahead and click 5 stars if you're listening on Spotify or Apple. It will greatly help the show. I appreciate you so much. And if you're looking to buy an uni or a second uni, the affiliate link helps the show so much. So please use that anytime you're considering a new oven. All right, enjoy the rest of the show. You could easily hire people to put out more pizza, or you can even partner with another pizza maker, but then it would completely change the vibe and the benefits to you as a business owner. When you invite the smash burger, you're creating this relationship, this business partnership that will then hopefully reciprocate itself, where if they need a partner, they're calling on you for these types of events versus like, oh yeah, I'm just going to make 50 more pizzas and deal with it. No, you're completely, I think, changing the game, or just the way people view things. I love it.
Yeah, totally. And I think, it's a collaborative energy of exactly what you just said, if people give back. So sometimes people have asked me to do a party that I was uncomfortable with. You say you give it to them, they give it back. Noel Bronner, which I'm sure many of you guys know, from Slow Rise Pizza. He is, I think he did a party it was a wedding, which is also something that I don't do, which I'll explain after, but I have all these rules.
Okay. You gotta give me your rules.
Yeah. But he did this wedding, which I think was like 150 people. And, his friend wanted him to do the pizzas, but, he was like, I'm not going to do these pizzas. Like, I'm going to get, 5 different LA pizza makers, and we're going to all make our own pizza together. And so it's going to be all of these different types of pizzas for this wedding. And so it was kind of a genius idea, because then you're taking the pressure off, and who doesn't want to try different styles of pizza, So, it was like a little pizza army, but really brilliant. And I thought that was a great idea.
So that said, I feel like you have a set of interesting rules. I want to hear this because I do want to get to a certain point from this podcast, which is you say no to a lot of things, and because you have these rules, right?
Yes.
What other rules do you have?
Well, and so I create these rules because I am trying to say no to a lot of things and work even more on that. And I think as a business owner, especially in food, I think we've all been there. The past 2.5 years, and not even business owner. I think a lot of people have been through this, not pizza related too, but you just, you're either making up for someone that's not there, and you're working, and then you're exhausted. And I've had, I think I went to the chiropractor, and she touched my body, and she was like, this was after, I think, maybe a really incredibly busy month in October, but she touched my body, and she's like, your entire body is inflamed. And I said, well, I've been working a lot. And she said, yeah, but like your entire body is inflamed. Like, are you okay? Like, do you want to tell me anything? This is a safe space. And I was like, listen, what do you want me to tell you? Like, I've been working a lot. And that kind of, and then I think I went out to dinner that night with one of my best friends who's also in the industry. And she was like, are you okay? I was like, what are you talking about? I'm fine. I've just been working a lot. And then I think both of them, the combination of them, they kind of broke me, where I was like, ooh, like I need to slow down. And I think this goes out to everybody. Check in with yourself, check in with those around you. Sometimes we all need to slow down a little bit, even if it's really hard and scary to do, because, especially now more than ever, I think the world is a very stressful place, but you need to learn how to set boundaries of, maybe even if it's a scary time where you're worried about, if it's busy right now, you might not get work in the future. So you have to say yes to all the work. I think, maybe don't say yes to all the work. take care of yourself first, because you're just going to burn out for so much longer. I would be burnt out for a month at a time where I was just living with this existing stress and just absolutely walked exhausted. And so slow down every once in a while, check in with people, your friends, your loved ones, or even people that you don't know, and just say, are you okay? And so I think we can all do that nowadays. Or we all should do that nowadays. But so learning how to set these boundaries, and I'm still learning too, is like, I think one thing, the weddings, I don't love doing weddings. It's a fantastic way to make business, and to make money. If you do weddings alone, you will be a very, very profitable business. But having gotten married myself and being somewhat of a chill bride, there was so much stress along with the wedding that I think being from the bride side, I was like, ooh, like the fact that I was somewhat chill, I do not want to be. The food is so important part of the wedding. Like, I do not want to be one of the most important things of the wedding is the food. So I'll be, maybe if anything, I'll be like the cocktail or the second meal. But I think if you're able to handle that stress and pressure from the wedding, then like, again, by all means, do that 500 or 1,000 person party. But I think that's a rule for me. I would say I also, a new thing that I've always told clients, and I always ask, and I'm trying to get better and better in this, because I've still found myself in this place. We need close access parking spot where we can load in and load out? Because you'd be surprised, you go to some neighborhoods and they're like, they don't have anywhere for you to park, and there's nowhere for you to park. So easy load in, load out. So it's easy for you and your crew. And then also you need access to a sink. The two most important things: easy load in, load out, access to a sink. Because you'll find yourselves, like, the clients won't even think about it, and they're going to be like, kind of, but I would say, you want to try to be able to wash up there, so you don't have to put a bunch of like, dirty dishes and have to do it later, because you're going to be exhausted, So yeah. And then what else? There's some of my other rules. This is a good one. I have a menu. What I recommend is, oftentimes clients they want you to help them. So I'll usually say, pick 1 to 3 pizzas. And I'll usually be like, go with a classic, a meat, a vegetarian, or a vegan, and choose 1 to 3, because, and sometimes if they're like, oh, well, can we do 4 or 5? And you're like, okay, we can. But for like, maybe more of a price. But having the 1 to 3, you're going to be handling the flow of the party. You're going to be wanting to like make those pizzas as fast as possible. And, and sometimes you can, do a fun pizza that's not on the menu and do that as a gift to the client, and they'll be super excited about it. But I think when you allow the client to be like, okay, like, I want this pizza and this pizza and this pizza and this pizza and this pizza, it's going to really stress. It's not going to be easy for you to actually like make the menu for the party. So kind of setting boundaries of, all right, let's try to do 1 to 3 pizzas. This is what I recommend. It helps guide, like, think of like the Chipotle menu. You know what I mean? Like, it helps guide the client of what they should have for their party. And then also, I always like to do salads and sides and meat, or have that as an additional option. I'll always also say a base rate for myself, or for which myself is basically my business, that will help cover my costs. So think about, you have, you're working with a client. There's how many hours is that going to take? You have your shopping day. How many hours is that going to take? You have your prep day. Some of these days can be combined, where you're prepping everything. What is on the menu? Like, do they want 5 pizzas? Do they want 3 pizzas? Do they want meatballs and all these other add-ons. Unless you're a restaurant, it might be very easy, but, or it might be easier and you can add that into the price. So, prep, we have, actual game day. How many hours is that going to take? And then we have cleanup day, which, and game day, you're probably going to be cleaning up most of the stuff, but usually, I don't know if anybody agrees here, usually the next day you're also still kind of organizing things, cleaning things. So that's a lot of hours of your time as the main event person. So I think making sure that you're paying yourself for however many hours is really, really important. Like, you shouldn't be making just $200 on this event. Like, think about what is your time worth? And so that you're always walking away with an adequate amount of money. So you can cover your butt. And let's see.
Do you have another one?
I think those are the main ones. I would say those are my two main ones. Yeah.
Super freaking key what you just said. And at first I thought, you had these rules, and maybe we can get into this later because you had, to worry about opportunity costs. But I think a lot of it is really just for health, safety, stress, and sanity, and just making sure that, going back to covering your own ass, it's like, if you are doing all these events and you're not getting paid for them, or not getting paid adequately, as you said, shoot, you can kiss your pizza journey goodbye, because you're going to get tired of it real quick. And I love how you broke down all the different days that people, including myself, don't even think about. Like, I didn't even think about cleanup day, because yes, after pizza, after you're done serving, you're not done. You're back in the kitchen cleaning up all that mess if you're not cleaning in between pizzas or in between guests.
Totally.
Genius.
Yeah. It's I don't think people realize how exhausting it is. And when you're negotiating with a client and saying that to them, I always say, like, I wouldn't be able to afford myself. So I also understand people say, hey, but like, can we break this down as a per person menu? Like, I don't do the per person menu, because if you broke down, I say, this is the base rate, and then we could break down the menu on top of that. And then if you want more servers, more staff, make sure that you're also paying them. So in LA, we do at least like $25 an hour for a server or an extra chef, at least, I would say. And so make sure that you're also paying your people properly. So you're like, okay, if you want 5 servers or 5 extra people there just to have them, great, but this is how much it's going to cost.
Now that we're on cost, and maybe this is one of those questions where you might have to skip around. I don't know what the phrase is, but like,
I know.
Answer me. Yeah. What do you charge for a 50-person party? Just ballpark, basic shit. Like, if I just wanted Ines to come to my house and make 3 pizzas for me for 50 people, can you give me a number?
3 types of pizzas for 50 people?
Whatever you're like.
Whatever I would say anywhere from, like, depending on the party, anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000. Because, and it didn't used to be that way. It used to be much less. And I mean, maybe it would be more on the, like, yeah, it used to be much less. And I think that's also important to take into consideration. I think you need to start pricing yourself properly. So how much money is it going to take for you to feel good walking away from this? And then you can slowly, increase your pricing. And I'm still learning this today, because like there's different, as many of us do, you think about with your business, like, what are the different ways that I can make money? And so you're like, okay, I have a new opportunity that maybe I haven't done before. And I don't really know how to price this. And if I go on the higher end of pricing something, then I might feel kind of uncomfortable. And I really just want this opportunity to get started. So just take the opportunity as low or as high as you could go. And like, this is for catering, for everybody out there that is wanting to get started on catering but doesn't know how to price themselves. I'd say just take the job. If it's really low, you'll learn that really fast. But remember that you were just given, and you're just given an experience that because you have that experience, now you can set your new boundary to go to the higher step of what you feel comfortable with. So, I think I have a pizza friend who just did a 100-person party, and he was saying he was charging this much, and I was like, okay, but that's good. You should be doing that. So, for the next one, maybe you should be charging more. And so,
what did they charge? Do you know? Do you remember?
I think it was like, and they may have increased it. I feel like it was a 100-person party for like 2,000 for like 3 or 4 hours. And also this is another good word of advice. I always like to tell people, I don't know if it's a good word of advice, but I always say like, okay, we're going to be making pizza for 2 hours. Pizza service is for 2 hours. So, or however long you say, if you want to say 4 hours, I have had, telling your client that gives them a good idea, because I've been to a party before and cooked food, and it was an incredible party. And, sometimes, you're also like drinking beer with your client and having a great day. And it's like a fun party where you're just cooking food. But I cooked food for, no joke, 8 hours of just food service for, I think it was a 40-person party. And, it was great because they were great eaters, but it was exhausting. So think about like how long you want your food service to be. And that doesn't include you getting there, like, your prep time of like, I like to show up an hour or 2 hours in advance just to like get settled. And then you'll probably stay an hour of cleanup. So you're out. So your food service, let's say the party starts at 7 p.m. I'm going to get there at 5 p.m. We're going to start appetizers at 7:30. We're going to start pizza, and then we'll go till like 9 p.m. And then 9:30, we'll wrap up, and then eventually be out the door at 10 p.m. So I think just so for however long, if you're comfortable making pizza for 8 hours, then by all means, but setting that first expectation with the client is very important, because it'll save your butt.
Solid. Now you're obviously like, charging what you feel is a fair price. And I think it's come with experience. You've been able to build up your reputation. And so people are willing to pay for that too. I guess my question for you is like, how are you getting clients? Because I've seen you make pizza for like, famous people. I've seen you do these collabs. Like, how are you getting this clientele?
So it's all word of mouth. And it took a long time to get there, and some months are slower than other months. But it's all word of mouth and creating a good relationship with your client, and again, talking to, people at the party. I think, one step up that we have as pizza makers from other chefs is that like pizza making it's about showmanship. We're entertainers to a certain degree. We stretch pizza dough. We play with fire. We, make pretty sauce. Like people love to watch cooking. People love to watch, again, fire. That we have a leg up because not only are people allowing us to come to their parties as this entertaining showmanship, but we can also network at the same time. So, I think it's super, super important if, as my dad says, I am a naturally very, very shy person, but I always try to fight past that. So if you're able to, keep working on being social, being nice, ask other people questions. I think it's so amazing the opportunity you have to network at the party that you're being paid to be at. And that is how I would say is the main way that I get my name around But also like I'll also take parties and do it for either significantly less money or no money if I think it's a good opportunity. You know, I think there's a confusing thing that sometimes, especially the celebrity clients, I've had this issue before where, you know, and I'm sure that they would pay a premium wage, but I'm oftentimes, ironically and strangely, more afraid to charge celebrity clients, even though they can afford it, my normal price. And I want to give them a discount, even though they can afford it, because I'm afraid that like they're not going to hire me, or I want to make sure that they don't think that I'm ripping them off in any way. So I think learning that, I don't know what the right answer to that is. And I think I'm getting better at just charging everybody the same price. But I think that's something, you know, it's, if anyone out there feels the same way, I think it's common. So I think, you know, if maybe, you know, we live in Los Angeles, everyone else lives everywhere else, like there maybe is not the same type of clientele, but if you feel like someone is a good networking opportunity, that maybe you can give them a little bit of a discount or something like that to get your foot in the door, because you think it's going to be, maybe take you to a next step. I think that it's okay to take into consideration, perhaps, but
I feel you. You know, it's such a predicament. It's like, do I charge them, or do I potentially get in or do I have to do whatever it takes just to get in the door so that I can market myself or network or whatever? Because there is a benefit and a cost to that too. And I mean, even for the podcast, it's like, oh crap, this person is pretty famous. Is it good enough for me to just ask them to be on the show, or is it asking too much for them to not only be on the show, but to also post on their grid or send it out to their email list, right? And so one of the things that's helped me actually is creating rules or automations, and that like the minute they sign up to do the podcast with me, I'll instantly set them on a path of automations. And one of the emails automatically says, hey, can you post this somewhere, or can you send it to your email list, whatever the case may be. That way I don't get scared to ask, right? Because you got to ask. But I totally get where you're coming from. It's like, well, maybe it's just a win for me to just even be there.
And totally. And I think that's a brilliant way to do it. You know, I think some people also, I have another email, and I'm a one woman show, but I have another email that, I think sometimes people like to have the assistant appeal. So if they think that you can play your own assistant through a different email, and you say, oh, well, Ines, or, oh, Idris, like he's unavailable at this time, or this is what is happening. Like you can, people are like frustrated, but they say, oh, fine. You know, I wish I could just talk to Idris or Ines, but it's kind of like you can use that to an advantage too. So that's a way to do it. And also I will say that people oftentimes say this, and they're like, if you're first getting started in the catering game, like, and people keep trying to take advantage of you in your earlier steps, they say, oh, well, come to this party. It'll be a great networking opportunity. Like, bullshit. Like, you don't, like, they should be paying you. You know what I mean? So, yes. If it happens the first couple of times, fine. But after a while, like, they should be paying you, and you are your own networking person. So,
100%.
You know, I'm sure many of us have gotten that before.
Yeah, it's way too common, I think. Maybe it's not, I don't know. But what you said, having that extra like email domain for assistant at Lupa Cotta, or manager at What's Good Dough, to be able to negotiate on your behalf, even though it's you behind the screen, genius move, I think.
Yeah. I like it.
Cool. You know, I mentioned in the intro, you do collaborations. Do you have a little bit of time to talk on that?
Yeah. So
For Instagram?
For Instagram, yeah. The collaborations first really started in 2020 when the world shut down, and I actually got to start the do-it-yourself pizza kit idea. And you know, it was
what happened to that, by the way?
So I was getting really busy at the beginning of 2020, and then the world shut down. I was ready to kick up my feet and watch Game of Thrones. I was super excited about it, and then I said, well, wait a second. Like, if there's ever an opportunity to start the do-it-yourself pizza kit, like, it's now. So I had all these friends or these friends who owned brick and mortars around the city, and they were kind of trying to survive like with their brick and mortars and their overhead. So I said, hey, like, can I sell my pizza kits at your store? Sarah Hendricks from Lady and Larder, which is an amazing cheese and charcuterie bodega in LA. It's incredible. Sarah I cannot speak highly enough of her. She's an amazing leader and business person. But anyways, she said, of course. And so I would sell do-it-yourself pizza kits there. And it got, at the beginning, I mean, there was like no stores were open and no one was really doing anything. And so it got insane. And I think I had definitely a few nervous breakdowns where I was like crying into my husband's chest. Because I was like, I can't stop making dough. and people, it was great. And it got very busy. So things got really crazy. And then there also started to be a little bit of a flux, like I think, and this still stands today, our customers, the mood of the customers and the consumer. So, I think stores started to open, like Whole Foods started to get more popular. There was also a scary time in politics. There was all of these different things that were happening, and the mood of the consumer was changing. And you kind of saw that like very drastically in numbers of pizza. So one thing that I started to do was start to do more collaborations with, like, how can I work with another business to help each other? Whether it was Sarah from Lady and Larder, like, we would put cheeses together with pizzas. We would, her cheeses from her shop with some of my dough kit, or, just different ways. And on social media, I think, eventually I shifted more towards like, well, it would be a fun way to, whether it was do an interview or, of us just making pizza together. I think with Katie Parla, we did one where she was living in Rome. Katie Parla, for those of you who don't know, is a fantastic cookbook author. And I think we did like a Zoom cooking class where, we used a recipe from her cookbook, and you could pick up some of the items in LA, and then she and I would do a pizza class together when she was in Rome and I was in LA, and we would all make pizza together. And so it just eventually, I think I started to shift away from the do-it-yourself kits. I might go back to it at some point, but I kind of followed the money, and that was private events. And so for now, I'm kind of doing private events and trying to figure out what is next. But in January and February of this year, 2022, January, at least for me, and I think for many of us, is incredibly slow. And people, carbs are not really part of your New Year's resolution. And we've spent all of our money in December. So, it's kind of a time to think and reflect. So I thought it would be really funny, with all of these detoxes out there, to do the detoxes of January, to do a salad pizza detox for the entire month of February. And so every day I would have to post a new video of a salad pizza. And I worked with, a lot of my friends in LA are the different chefs. And so I said, hey, or even if they weren't friends, I wanted them to become a friend and work together. And I said, hey, like, do you want to make a salad pizza together, and they said, yes, definitely. And some people started coming to me like that I didn't even know, saying, hey, let's do a collaboration. So it was really fun. a fun way to network and also just kick it and make pizza with either a friend or a new friend. And you would be showcasing their business and they would be showcasing your business. And you would have both of your audiences together. And it was just a very healthy, like beautiful thing to do. And, you know, some of the concoctions, you know, I'm sure that I made were very silly and absolutely ridiculous, but it was a really, really fun way to just get creative and then also network at the same time. So I would recommend to everybody to, you know, to do these collaborations, because it'll only help you and it'll only help other businesses. So it would be silly not to.
I thought they were genius. You know, when I saw you, I thought it was a great business move. When I saw you,
thank you,
linking up with collaborating with different Instagram accounts, you know, you expand your audience's reach, or you expand your reach and you try to, and you'll tap into a new audience. And I don't know, it just looked fun what you were doing. It was just like crazy, actually. Fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Super fun. I would, maybe there will be a 2023 salad pizza detox again. We could do one together.
Keep it going. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to wrap things up here with 2 questions that I always ask. What is one mistake in pizza, business, or life that people can avoid?
I would say, I think one mistake in pizza business that people can avoid is, I think, just start, for one, in whatever capacity that it is. I think waiting to start, you'll wait forever. And so I think maybe not investing, don't invest everything in your business before you start, I guess, is a better advice. So start by making food for friends, doing a pop-up for your friends. Start by, you know, asking questions to different entrepreneurs. Start by just being curious for the world. If you just invest everything that you have in your business right before you even start, whether if you haven't like worked in a pizzeria, if you haven't worked in a restaurant, if you haven't, then you just have this money that you owe. But if you just, I think the main thing of starting isn't on a paper, isn't with a financial investment. Starting means making pizza for your friends. Starting means, again, doing the networking. So I think do that first. Don't invest everything you have before you've done those other things.
Yeah. You can sign up for an LLC, sign up for insurance, buy the ovens, and I don't know, pay a designer for your website. But like, have you checked off making pizza yet? Throwing your first event? You should probably do that first.
Exactly.
Awesome advice. This has been extremely fun. I have learned a ton from you. Seriously, I genuinely mean that. I am so glad we made this happen, and I feel super enlightened. Like you brought a fresh perspective. And I don't say that too often. I feel like this is a lot of this conversation has been new. So I want to say thank you first before asking you my final question.
Thank you. It's been so nice.
Cool. What do you want to leave the audience with today?
I think building your community is so crucial and so important in whatever capacity you can. I am what has kept me going in this business so far, and I'm sure many of us feel the woes and excitements of entrepreneurship that we have on a daily or every other day basis, and our insecurities. But I think having a community in LA, and I guess outside of LA, but especially in LA, my food community that I've built, and it continues to grow, is so powerful. because they understand you and they understand what you're going through, whether it's your loss of creativity, whether it's your hustle for money, whether it's your relationships, your struggle with relationships. It's so important to build community that you can rely on, and they'll catch you and they'll say, hey, it's okay. Like, either just take a break or get back up there. Like, we've got you, and they'll help you. Well, you're not alone, because I think it's so oftentimes we can feel alone as entrepreneurs. So build your community, help each other, support each other, listen, and just build it. So community will make you grow.
Thank you, Ines.
Thank you.
This has been fun, really, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Ines, I mean, wow. Really, I truly meant what I said. You definitely were enlightening. I appreciate your way of thinking. I love what you're doing, and I can't wait to see your pizza journey continue. And to you, the listener, if that episode didn't get you thinking about, what you're doing with your life and kind of the things that you do that serve you and don't serve you, or the community that you're in or that you're building that serves you or doesn't serve you, I mean, I don't know, maybe we weren't listening to the same episode, but either way, please find Ines on IG and let her know it's good dough. I appreciate you. I love you. Till next time. Peace.